What's up, guys? Welcome back to First and 12 Ounces, as always, episode 3, going into week 2. We're going to recap week 1, which is massive games on week 1. We got some big games on week 2 coming up as well, and we'll have fun with it. We'll lead off with the smaller of the games, and that's Texas's 52-0 victory over Colorado State. We all said it was kind of going to be a blowout. We thought it wasn't going to be this big of a blowout. Even myself, I didn't think it was going to be a shutout like this. But I mean, they stepped up. Texas played some of the best ball I've seen in a long time. It's first shutout since I think 2022, I believe, for Texas. So played lights out. Ewers in his first half alone threw for 248 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have a pick. He took it on himself as soon as the play was made. He said, "Hey, I tried to make something happen out of nothing," and literally attempted to throw it away, and the ball got tipped up and intercepted. That's just how it rolled. But he took it on his chin, and Stark was all right with it too. Other than that, there was not really any mistakes made by the Texas football team whatsoever. They punted one time the entire game. Their defense played lights out, including the defensive tackles, which everyone was kind of worried about. Defensively, the defensive back stepped up and made huge plays as well. Texas only had 3 missed tackles the entire game.
That's impressive.
3 missed tackles. That's insane. 3 missed tackles. They played lights out ball, man, and that's the kind of stuff you want to see going into next week because they got a big game against Michigan. But I mean, I can't really get over the fact of how the DBs look, the defensive tackles look, the rotation of the players. A total of 51 different players touched the field during the first half alone. 71 players on Texas's roster played. So
it's a big number.
Exactly. So he rotated everyone and anyone he wanted. Another key factor he wanted to work on was the red zone. The red zone was an issue for Texas last year. They were 7 for 7 yesterday, all touchdowns. So it looks like they cleaned that up a good bit. Isaiah Bond looked fabulous. Golden came out of nowhere with 2 huge touchdowns that I didn't see happen. Did you see Quinn's no-look touchdown pass to Golden?
No, every play I've seen has been that one, the arch shuffle pass.
Yeah, of course. You knew that one was going to get blown up just because the simple name alone. But yeah, Arch had Quinn had a no-look pass to Golden for his second touchdown of the game. It was super impressive. And, I mean, the boys just rolled. They did everything they were supposed to do, especially going into next week, but we'll touch on next week when we get there. Let's touch on the other big one. Bo was previously occupied, so he couldn't be with us today. But, hey, his Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Texas A&M. What about a back and forth on that one?
Back and forth is something. It's kind of like watching paint dry.
Yeah, it was more of a back and forth of who's gonna win the game, not who's gonna put them away or who's gonna make the big play. It was just like who's gonna do something to win the game. How'd you feel about it overall?
Well, I was dead wrong. I kind of wasn't. I thought A&M's defense was going to be really good, which it looks like it was. I did not anticipate Connor Wegman to be as bad as he was. I think his QBR was 28. I think he finished with a 28, which is the worst in the country in week 1. I mean, he was horrible. Bad enough for, I don't know if he should be the starting quarterback there.
Yeah. It was
to be that bad on that stage, that's worse than being he had an off night. I mean, he was horrific.
Yeah. I think both quarterbacks played bad as well, though. I didn't see anything from Riley to make me stand out and be like, oh, my God. Outside of his running, he ran the ball. And to where I think Wegman failed was it seemed like to me Wegman was making plays with his legs, but then wasn't doing it. He would pull it.
Panicked.
Yeah, he would pull it and scramble for a good bit of yards and a good bit of a first down here and there, and then he just wouldn't do it anymore. He would just try to force stuff, and it was just unbelievable. He was 12 for 30, 100 yards with 2 interceptions.
I think Notre Dame's going to end up undefeated this year because they don't play anyone. I think they only have 2 road games left, which is nuts. And they play USC at the end and Florida State. So they've only got 2 real tests, but A&M was very unimpressive to me. The defense is really good, but that we kind of knew that. That game looked like an old school Les Miles LSU game. That's what that felt like watching. Like a defense that's just like, give me something and we can win. But Holy smokes, it was boring to watch.
It was. I think I texted you in our group chat, and I was just kind of like, "Hey man, like, what is this? Is just if this game takes any longer, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do." And I was pumped up for it because I mean we had good football for the majority of the day, and we got to it, and it was just kind of like, "What are we doing here? What are we doing here?" Notre Dame had 99 yards in penalties alone,
Ooh.
and still won that game, which is crazy. A&M is officially 1-9 when appeared on game day. 1-9. That is not a record you want. You get put on the big stage and you win one game out of 10. That's not a good look.
Well, dude, everything we thought was going to benefit them did. We thought their defense would play great. We thought Kyle Field would be an advantage, and it was. That place was jumping.
It was insane. How many times did
That
you see quarterbacks do this? And
dude,
every game I've watched, you saw the quarterbacks doing this. And you said it. You said it last week. You said NFL guys put plugs in their head, their earmuffs, so that they can tune out the crowd. But you saw it every single game.
and I mean, Kyle Field was jumping. I was impressed with how lively that crowd was. That was an impressive showing from the fan base.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, including national media, thought the quarterback was going to be. I mean, people were talking about him leading up to the season
Oh
as
yeah.
a sneaky best quarterback in the conference. Not everybody, but there was people, and there was definitely a pretty big sentiment that he was going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. He
Yeah.
doesn't look like a starting quarterback, much less a top tier one.
He looked confused at times. He didn't know what he was doing with the ball. It just I think their best play was coming from Moss, the running back. He
Yeah,
had
he can. Well, he can play.
he had 20 touches for 70 yards and a touchdown. They only scored one touchdown. And also only scored one touchdown. Um, Emmitt Smith's son looked good the times that he got carries too.
Mm-hmm.
EJ Smith, he looked pretty good. But outside of that, I didn't see anything that A&M looked noteworthy of. Their defensive line was strong, like we said that we thought it would be. Outside of that, everything else was kind of open. When Raleigh Leonard could settle and find his tight end, he was picking them apart with his tight end more than anything else, uh, which was crazy. And then they had gash plays. They had gash plays where they ran through that defensive line. That you're just kind of like, oh, we wasn't expecting this. And that's in the end, that's what won them the game. Which was
That Notre Dame O line really they leaned on him, and I didn't think they'd better lean on him like that. I mean, 6 combined starts, and that looked like a veteran crew. That's a top 10 O line in the country at some points in that game. They just leaned on him.
exactly. And like you said last week when you said it, it had me scratching my head more than anything else because it's such a young offensive line, and they stepped up and did what they needed to do to win the game. I'm not going to sit here and say they look super impressive because it was a sloppy game, but damn, Elko, we'll see. We'll see. That's their guy. We'll see. But yeah, the word's already out on the street about Connor Wegman. The comment boards are going crazy about him. I laugh because I remember, I think it was last week. Somebody was in or Friday when we were on the live. Somebody was trying to say that there was off the field issues in Austin and this and that and da 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 da. And I'm like, you're talking about stuff that you read on chats. And he's like, I'm just saying that's the word around the street. Well, the person that made those comments about Sark and the locker room not being under control came out this week and said they're going to be lights and day better than us, and all we have is time to spread rumors on our comment board. So it's kind of
I
like,
mean,
what? Like,
I like. There's a part of me that feels bad for A&M fans because they genuinely buy into it every year that they are a top tier program. And look, I know people are going to listen to this and start balling up a fist, cussing at me, saying LSU just lost. I'm aware of that, but y'all have never had success at a top end. And every year we show up to the season and it goes A&M is going to be this, this, and that. That looked just like A&M's looked under Jimbo Fisher. It looks no different. That looked identical to how it's looked. And I'm sure Wegman's going to have a game this year where he puts up like 320 and 4 tuds against somebody that he shouldn't do it against. And people go like, there he is. I thought he was pathetic in the biggest game of their season. And I say the biggest game of their season. I know they're in the SEC. I mean, you're on prime time, new coach, the hype's around you. You got a chance if you win that game, you probably enter the rankings going into next week. You're probably a top 15 team, and you're sitting there going, "Here we are.
Yeah.
We're on a real path to 10-2, 9-3." And I think now they're looking at we're back to 7-5, 8-4. Is what they
Yeah.
look like.
I mean, and game days there, you got everything behind you. You got everyone sold in. Everyone's just they're ready, and it comes out as another loss. Like it's just
But they laid an egg too. It was like a boring loss. Like it was like they couldn't do anything offensively. So like yeah, the defense got gashed a little bit. The defense was on the field all game. They couldn't do anything on offense.
yeah, absolutely nothing whatsoever. I mean, when you score one touchdown, um, and then everything else is just kind of like dink and dunk, but it doesn't equal anything. Like what is that? It's it's going to be interesting what goes on in College Station coming up. I'm interested to see what Notre Dame does too. Like you said, Notre Dame does have a very favorable schedule. Um, they do still play Florida State. They do still play Clemson. Outside of those two big teams, I don't think they really play anybody else.
They got to go to the Coliseum to play USC at the end of the year.
Yeah,
And I think USC's good.
yeah, USC. We'll get into that one that here coming up next. But yeah, you're right. I mean, with the playoff system and the way it's set up, the highest they can finish is fifth, which isn't a bad finish because if you think about it, if you're sitting at fifth, you don't get a bye week, but you get a home game, and you're going to play the number 12 team.
You'll play the G5 team.
Yeah, the G5 game. So you kind of gotta give me. It's not bad, but it's not great. I mean, of course, having a bye week would be awesome, but still, that having a home game against a smaller opponent before you start big boy play is also good too. Um, that's all I got on them. Let's touch on OU for a little bit before we get into the big one. Um, we'll touch on OU. They did have a 50, what was it, 51 or 52 or 3 victory. A lot of people were kind of hyped on them, everything else. They did lose one of their wide receivers. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks due to injury. But I'll tell you what stood out to me more than anything else. That offensive line is going to be an issue. I know they put up 51 points, but they were also 1 for 12 on third down.
That's a bad stat. I didn't know that. I thought
One,
Arnold looked sharp. I will say that.
Arnold threw for their total passing yards was 158. That's the lowest passing that they've ever had since 2022.
I thought he looked sharp though. I
Yeah,
thought the ball came out of him well. I thought
he was
he's
pressured a
definitely
lot.
got talent.
He was pressured a lot. He was pressured 5 times and gave up 2 sacks. So that offensive line is something they got to clean up more than anything else. Their grading at offensive line was 57.9
That's not very good.
against Temple as well. That's what I keep bringing up, and everyone's like, "Oh, look what we did! Look what we did!" If you have your pass blocker rating is 57.9 against Temple, where do you get in the conference? Where do you play the big boys? What's going to be it then? Like what then? And then our buddy Cam kind of pointed it out. He was like, "Well, yeah, the passing numbers aren't going to be there. It was a lot of turnovers, so we're short yardage. Yeah, we're short yardage, but you also punted the ball 5 times. Like Temple made you punt the ball 5 different times. That's not a good sign. Like, yes, it's a big win. It's great, but you got to clean a lot up in week one. Um, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I'm still not sold out on them. I think I still don't believe BV's the right fit there. But we'll see how they clean that up and get it going moving forward. Let's get on the big one now. The one that we kind of all waited for. Sunday we prepped up for it. We talked about it. I think we talked more before the game and anything else and drank together before the game than probably needed to be. And then the big lights are on USC LSU. And honestly, a great game. It was one of the most entertaining games of the year so far, by far. It had it all. There was good play, there was bad play. I'll tell you what I liked and I didn't like before I give you the mic because I know it's your team. If that's all right with you,
Yeah, go
uh,
ahead.
what I did like was, hey, both teams were ready to play. They were sloppy plays and stuff like that, but they came out to play. They came out to play big time. Um, that first series by LSU, I was like, whoa, here we go. I don't understand the going for it when you're in the red zone that early. I understand you want to keep that momentum going and you want to you want to just get it wrong, but to get a blitz like that against that offensive line was crazy to me that he got through so clean to get that shot on Nuss to make him throw that ball as quick as he did. I was like, what what happened there? Um,
And somebody on Twitter was like, he missed a touchdown pass there. Bad pocket movement. I was like, you mean the dude sprinting at his face? What
yeah,
would you have liked? He was like, he should have stepped to the right. It's like he caught the ball and there's a defender 3 yards from him at his
yeah,
face. The fact that he didn't get sacked is a miracle.
exactly. It was a zero blitz. It was a zero. Like,
Like I literally saw his tweet. I was like, what do you want him to do? He caught the ball and there's a defender at the line of scrimmage, full sprinting at him.
yeah,
You want to, yeah, hey, just step right. Brother, this ain't NCAA football. We ain't play. This real life. Well, I
yeah,
mean, that was a crazy tweet, I thought. I was like, what?
yeah. I was like, damn, that's and like I said, I didn't see it coming because the offensive line at LSU is highly rated, and then just a zero blitz on fourth down in the red zone that just breaks up a possible touchdown. I was like, that is nuts to me. What else did I see from LSU that I like? There were some things that I liked about LSU. LSU's, and I told you before I give you the table to preach on because it is your team. The linebacking crew, you called it more than anything else. Those linebackers are something special. And the blitzing packages that they were using were outstanding. Outstanding. Um, I did think it was going to come down to the last drive of the game to win, and that's kind of what happened. But I'll turn it over to you and let you speak on it because that's your boy. So, how we sitting, brother?
Doing all right. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't think it's. I still think LSU ends up 10-2, 9-3. Some LSU media is like, we're 8-4, we're not very good. I would feel that way if I wouldn't have already lived this life. I feel like I'm in a movie Groundhog Day. Like I just keep reliving this same experience every year. We get hyped up and we lose the first game one. So you're in a hole. I do think that LSU team was good. I'll talk about the game a little bit, then get into some more general thoughts on Brian Kelly and where the program sits. So I thought the biggest mistake that I hated to see from the jump was we won the toss. Just defer. Just defer. So every Brian Kelly loss at LSU, he's won the toss and elected to receive.
I did not
It's
know.
in his mindset is we want to set a tone, but the math side of it adds up to no. You want to have a chance to do the double up. You want to have a chance to score at the end of the half and then get the ball and score again, which USC almost did.
Yeah,
They almost did. So I hated that. And then going forward on fourth down there to start. We did this exact thing last year against Florida State. Got the ball, drove right down the field. Boom, sitting there, fourth down. We went for it, didn't kick it, no points. I would have loved last night, just take the 3. Let's just go up 3-0, and now let's start playing the game with a 3-0 lead. And now we just get into this game. So I did not like that. Even in the moment, I didn't love that. But what I will say about the game is I thought LSU was really good. The front seven on defense, I thought, played really well. It felt like the most LSU defense probably in about 3 or 4 years that I've seen out of them. It looked like a unit that can be successful against big time opponents. Now, one of the issues is the secondary's got personnel problems, right? They're just not talented enough. I thought Ashton Stamps was the best corner last night. I thought he made a couple really good plays, but they just lack some talent there. And kudos to Blake Baker. I mean, he really made up for it. Like we were talking before we got on. If you had told me that USC would have 13 points in the fourth quarter, I don't know a single LSU fan that had been like, I don't want that. We're having a bad night. I mean, I thought he really played well. And I thought they played relatively opportunistic. LSU had multiple times where they could have picked the ball off. They had a couple strip sacks. The ball just didn't bounce their way or end up in their hand. And I thought they would run the ball well. And they did, but they didn't. So that's what's weird. It didn't feel like they were having success. They ran for like 100 and something yards. So they had
yeah.
over 100 yards rushing.
They ran for 117 yards.
Yeah, so they had a good night rushing ball. I think the thing I didn't like on offense is clearly Nuss looked really sharp to start the game. And then LSU got that lead 17-13. And it really felt like the coaching staff made a big mental blunder. And they went into prevent offense. They went, we can just bleed the clock out. Where instead, go for the jugular. Go make this thing 24-13, and then you start bleeding, not up 4. But I think, and then you got yourself caught in a situation where it was like, rut-row. Also, red zone offense was horrible. They were inside the 15 3 times and scored 6 points total. That's a problem. You're not going to win football games like that. I thought the punt group was pretty good. Um, they got to fix these penalties. I mean, Zach Branch about took one to the house because of the penalty. And
Yeah,
I get it. I love the LSU wide receiver room. I love the swagger they bring. You just got to be a little smarter than like we can't fake like we're shooting somebody and then brag
yeah,
about it on the sidelines. Like have a little bit of common sense there. Bad move on him, but I thought Kyron Lacey looked good. But again, we're back to square one. This is
yeah,
every year. I I still think Kelly's the best option you got right now. I'm obviously not as high on him as I was this time yesterday, but I'm not ready to fire him. And like we talked about, I don't think he's on the hot seat or anything. I do think the Ole Miss game becomes extremely crucial for him. So if you come out, because realistically going to that schedule, you've got Nichols, South Carolina, UCLA, and there's one more. Then you get Ole Miss. If you lose the Ole Miss game, the seat needs to get at least warm. Now the buyout's like $70 million, so they're not going to buy him out.
yeah,
But the conversation needs to happen if you lose to Ole Miss about like this needs to get figured out quick because we're in year 3 and the program's not growing. That's my concern right now is it doesn't feel like the program's growing. I think we win 9-10 games this year. I think it looks just like last year and the year before. I think right now Brian Kelly's got you at a level where you're the Penn State of the SEC. You're always going to be better than bad, but never really nationally relevant. And that it's a tough pill to swallow. I think he's a good stabilizer, but he's shown me nothing to this point to tell me that he can get him over the top. And then he has this post game press conference with these antics and these raw emotion. The clip makes it seem fake. I did watch the whole thing again, and it feels a little more real watching the full 12-minute deal because he is animated the whole time. Now the fist bang, I mean, whatever. It's like I don't need you to do that. I need you to figure it out. Um, but I think the way he coaches football is this game is indicative of it. Even like games that LSU wins. I mean, how many times have we watched LSU go down 10, 20 points and then come back and win a game? That this is what he does in the season too.
yeah,
He's got to look in the mirror and go, how do we get better to start? Because guess what? It doesn't get easier. Next year you go to Clemson to start the year off. So like it doesn't get easier. All these people look, everybody going, I want a cupcake game. Give me the Citadel. Give me South Alabama. That would be terrific. But reality is we have Clemson in the next 2 years. So you ain't getting it. So you
yeah,
got to figure out, and Brian Kelly's going to be the head coach for those games. You got to figure out how to be better there. And again, I think this LSU team is good, right? I think they're going to get to a point where they're 6-1, 7-1, and people forget about it because we've done this for 2 years in a row now. That's why I have that belief. I don't have because you're going to beat Nichols, you're going to beat South Carolina, and then here you'll be sitting back in that ranked like 11th at 6-1, playing maybe an undefeated Ole Miss at home. If you get Ole Miss, then all of a sudden it's like yippee. But I don't know. I was disappointed in how vanilla we played on offense. I thought the run game was uncreative. I thought the passing game looked like there was it felt like they put a governor on Nussmeier. Like midway through the game, my buddy and I were talking, and I was like, it feels like they're terrified to let him sling one around the yard. Like he was sharp, but it was all like 10 intermediate passes. It looked like a Bo Nix style of play calling.
yeah,
Like he's a gunslinger. Let's get the ball down the field. Let's push it. And I didn't like that. I think that gets addressed. But this is the problem with playing these big games first. You learn these things on the fly, and it's not against a Colorado State or a Temple. It's you can't go like, nah, it's not really working. Let's try this. You've kind of got to go, well, this is what we practice, and if we start trying new things and they don't work, we're going to get boat raced. So how do we keep ourselves in the race? And I'm not happy with it. I'm not down on them for the season. I still think they're a top 15 team. I don't think the playoffs out the question. It's definitely going to be an uphill mountain to get to. But like I said, probably week 7, I won't even remember this one because I know how to live this life. I've been doing it now for half a decade.
Uh, to touch on what you said about the offense as well, Nuss did look good whenever they let him sling the ball. He looked great. Whenever they were letting him feed Lacey, it looked like, here we go. And then they let John Emery start running the ball, and he started running the ball like he had an attitude. And then they took the ball out of both of those guys' hands. They stopped letting him make those passes, and they stopped letting him run the ball. As soon as Emery started running the ball like that, I was like, all right, now they're gonna control. They're proving who they are. They're gonna bully their way to a victory. That's what's gonna happen.
That's exactly what I thought.
And
Exactly.
they took the ball out of his hands for whatever reason. And it wasn't like they took the ball out of his hands to let Nuss do Nuss's thing. They weren't letting either player do anything. They were kind of just doing. Honestly, I don't know what they were doing because he wasn't. They weren't feeding the ball to Lacey no more. I think Mason had a few catches. He had some good yards, but they weren't giving Mason the ball. Emery wasn't in the game. Like I think Emery had what I forgot how many. He had 10 carries for 61 yards, and then he disappeared. Like they just. I understand they're rotating. I understand they want to rotate their backs and give other guys more carries, but he was the guy. He was your bell cow. He was doing it all. Like feed him. Like
You also
Matt Brown's old saying that he used to always say is, "You dance with the one that brought you." Guess what?
well,
This guy is carrying the team right now. Feed him.
They also only targeted Kyron Lacey one time in the second half. He had 7 catches for 94 yards in the first half. He was clearly the best wide receiver on the field, either side, in the first half. And they just targeted him one time in the second half. That's the stuff I look at and I go, I don't know what you're doing. I
I
don't
didn't.
know where your brain is because I know it's real easy for you and I to sit here. But what frustrates me is I don't think it's rocket science. We watch the games and drink beer. These dudes get paid to coach. How can you get paid to coach and go, hey, we're going to take our number one wide receiver who's got 94 yards and a touchdown and about 4 inches from 2 touchdowns, and we're just not going to even target him in the second half. We're going to eliminate him. Same thing with John Emery. We put this guy in, he gashes the defense 2 plays back to back. He clearly looks like the best running back on his team tonight. And you just go back to Josh Williams. Oh, we got a quarterback that looks sharp that at one point was 20 for 24, and one of those incompletions was a drop from Mason Taylor, and I know it got tipped, but it still hit him in the hands. And then a ball in the end zone that Kyron Lacey's 6 inches away from being a touchdown. That's two of his. He's 20, and you just go, I think we just hand off basic zone run right here, and we just do it over and over and over. Like that's the stuff I look at. And I go, what is your brain doing? How are you coaching? Like why?
Yeah,
Why did you coach so scared? Why were you so terrified of losing that you couldn't just go win?
and that's. I mean, and I think BK said it in his press conference when he said it looked like we felt like. How did he put it? What did he say? We felt like we went into clock management or something. I forgot how he said it exactly. I meant to write it down, but I didn't. But he said, everyone felt like we could coast from here. It was something along those lines. And it's like, no, you're calling the plays. Like, you're the guy that makes that decision. Don't. And then a statement that he said that I didn't like at all when they asked about Miller Moss, he said he outplayed our quarterback.
He didn't outplay. I will say this. I think Miller Moss played fantastic. I think Miller Moss made a lot of plays when he had to. I think the SC wide receivers made big time plays. I mean, they had multiple catches that should not have been catches that they made phenomenal plays on. But I thought Nuss was outplaying him, no doubt, in the first half. The only reason I would say yes, Brian Kelly's correct. Miller Moss outplayed Garrett Nussmeier because they stopped letting Garrett Nussmeier play. Is the
Yeah,
only reason. He
yeah,
wasn't the better quarterback. They just went, we're going to nullify our quarterback and make ourselves this basic zone run offense. What are we doing?
yeah. So LSU had 6 plays for over 15 yards. USC had 12.
That
So that it goes to two things. It goes to wide receiver quarterback play for SC, but it also goes to DB play for LSU on plays that could have been missed or mess ups and stuff like that. I thought the unsportsmanlike conduct, and I texted you while we were talking about it, and I said, hey, I said that more than anything, I said even if y'all win this game, y'all got to clean up this unsportsmanlike because it's I think it was 2 or 3 the entire game, and it was just like I understand.
veterans too.
Yeah, I understand. Y'all are known for that. You're known for, dancing after touchdowns and celebrating and do this stuff. There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. Like you got to learn when not to do things. Um, And then, I mean, what was your thought on the targeting call?
In the moment, I didn't think it was, but I don't. I don't think it really affected anything. My honest opinion. I think USC kicks. I think that just led to the touchdown. I think they win, and I think they kick a field goal, win it anyway. Because I mean, he caught that ball at like the 37 is where that
Yeah,
penalty took place, and they still had like 20 seconds left on the clock. I think realistically, they throw a pass across the middle. Our DBs were so worn out at that point that it was. I literally told the guys in the house I was with, you were kind of praying at that point, like throw a ball that we get a finger on, and we get to pick this thing off and just get to overtime, and then we can just get in a back and forth overtime.
yeah,
But don't don't hate the call. Don't
yeah.
love it, but
Uh,
don't yeah, get it.
I thought where the where y'all's defensive line showed weakness was later in the game when they started gashing off for runs. They weren't big runs; they were 5 or 6 yards, but it kind of just it looked like y'all slowed down after that, and it just I was like, oh dang, like if they don't clean that up more than anything else. Like I said, the linebackers played great. I think Perkins had a great game. He made some big plays. That play the what play was it where there's a read option where he literally had the quarterback in one hand and the running back in the other. I
He was
was
able to
like,
tackle both of y'all. Yeah,
oh my, the running back in there, he ended up getting a loss on the play, but I was like, this dude literally read it to the point, and no one even thought about touching him, and he
dude.
had both of them in his hands at one time. I'm like, wow,
Well, I can remember the play vividly, sitting here watching it and seeing him come in like he was going to blitz. And I remember thinking in my head, I hope he gets there in time. And dude, he shot out of a cannon. He was in the backfield in a second. Like that's the step I forget he has, which makes him that elite pass rusher.
yeah.
Where he's got that it's on you.
Where I also what thing I also noticed about it is he is such that guy on the defense that you saw whenever he was tired and there was plays that he wasn't able to get that quick step that it kind of cost y'all. But it's not no fault on his own because the kid's not going to come out of the game. He's not going to come out of the game.
We can't
By
either.
he's by far the best player on y'all's defense. But when he gets tired, someone else has to step up. Uh, a guy that you touched on last week, and you said you think he was going to have an outstanding game. He started to shine in the game. He almost had a pick. Weeks started making plays. Weeks, I don't know, understand why he didn't get put in as much as he did, or unless
This
I
is
overlooked it. But
nope. This is a
when he got in the game, it seemed like when Perkins wasn't on a play, Weeks was on the play. That's what you
because
need, and you need a complimentary linebacker. So when Perkins would have like, I'm not saying he's taking a play off or anything, but when he's tired or he gets double teamed, Weeks would be there to make the play. Why wasn't he in more than that? I don't understand.
it's a great question. Nobody really knows that we had this argument last year with the team. Right, he was the guy last year. He played for 3 games last year before the Alabama game, and he led the team in tackles in those three, all three of them. And then he didn't play the Alabama game. This is the thing sometimes that happens with this personnel, with the staff that makes that I think reason for concern because you're not an LSU fan, you're not invested in it. You can clearly tell him and Perk together are the two best defensive players on that team. What
Absolutely, absolutely. And I heard his name last year a brief few times, but never really paid much attention to the kid. And then whenever you said his name, I was like, all right, when this kid gets in a game, I got to see what he's going to do. And I didn't see him until the second half. I don't think he was in the first half, was he?
it,
I may
it's
be wrong.
I think he played a couple snaps, but
I
no,
remember
it's
his
crazy
name
to me.
half, and then the second half, I'm like, that's the kid Buddha was big on, and he's making plays, and to the point where Chauncey was texting me, who was at the game, and he's like, "Hey, Weeks is a dog." He's like, "He is a dog. Like he's clearly a dog."
No,
And
he's
I'm like, damn,
I,
damn.
I think the statement last year that Kelly made or somebody, I might be misremembering this, was that he didn't understand the system enough to be an every down player. All I know is when you got a bad defense, and I don't think the LSU defense is bad this year. I actually think it's a pretty solid. I think they're going to be a top 60, top 50 type group. But it's clear when he comes on the field of
Yeah,
I don't care if he's not great at knowing the system. He's always around the ball, always. And him and Perk together are one of the better linebacker groups probably in the country. Them two, but he doesn't play him, and I don't
yeah.
understand why.
I don't get it either. It's crazy to me. But that game more than anything else, like I said, it was a fun one to watch. It was back and forth. I figured it would come down to the last play, and then honestly, get down to it before that targeting call when USC was making that drive. I texted the group and I said, "Hey man, I called this. I thought it was going to be a field goal," and then I was like, you know what? Maybe LSU makes a play, and then the play that they threw that called targeting, I was like, if he doesn't make that catch, it's gonna be hard for USC to push the ball even further than it is. Not only did he make a spectacular catch, then he got the targeting call as well. I was kind of like, man, here we go again. Here we
Well,
go. And a lot. I mean, Twitter was a roar. People this morning are still a roar about the whole situation and play calling and everything else. I did see. I'm not sure if you saw the clip, but did you see when y'all's OC was literally cussing someone out on the head speaker? At one point in the game, they went up to him after they were LSU was making a drive. I think it was to tie it up. It was making a drive, and it was like at a timeout, and they went up there, and he was like going off, and I was like, what's going on there? Like, who is he? Is he arguing with another coach that's on the field?
I
Or what?
Yeah, I did not. I'll look into it. I'll
Yeah,
find out. I'll do
I,
some investigative reporting.
yeah, that one kind of stood out to me. I was kind of like, wow, okay. Um, but yeah, so I mean, honestly, Dan Buddha looks like you're on the bad reads for this week as well.
It's fine.
I think in our three games, we all picked Texas. Me and Bo picked Notre Dame. You picked A&M, so you missed on that one. And then I'm the only one that picked SC. I think y'all went with LSU, and I kind of said it was going to be a last second drive for them to win it, and that's what happened. And it sucks that it did, honestly, because it was such a good game. I thought it was going to overtime. Like after y'all scored, I was like, "Holy shit, here we go! Going to be an
That's what I
overtime,
wanted.
and we'll see what happens." Let's touch on some other games before we get to next week. How about Oregon struggles? Did you see all that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one to me. I still think they're pretty good. I think it's more so.
First
I
game,
think, yeah, I think they're still. I think that was one of those they got kind of Idaho snuck up on them, and then you get yourself in the middle of a dogfight.
yeah, because I mean it really was a dogfight. They didn't pull away until late in the fourth quarter and won it 24-14. Uh, Idaho State made some stands in the red zone to where where Oregon went for it on fourth and got shut down, and then actually had to settle for a field goal. So I was kind of like, man, all these transfers Oregon got in, they're supposed to be this high powered offense. Like, what's going on there? Tennessee looked incredible, but I think they played Chattanooga or somebody.
Yeah,
Uh, I think Georgia, once we talked about that, and we all watched that game together and kind of talked about it. Me, you, and Bo. Uh, once Georgia got settled, they kind of bulldozed their way through it. And you said it literally after I think the last great drive before Oregon. I mean Georgia started putting points up. You're like, Georgia runs away with it now, and literally that's exactly what happened.
yeah.
Outside of that, that was all that happened this week that I can think of. Unless I'm missing anything, you think I'm missing anything?
No, Jackson Dart had an incredible first half. I think he threw for 400 yards in the first half against who were they playing? Furman,
Yeah.
whoever they were playing. He had a great first half though. Best first half since Joe Burrow against Oklahoma in the playoff.
Yeah.
So I'll give him a little shout out. That was trying to think of who else. I thought
Ohio
Nico pretended. Ohio State was.
Yeah, they started slow. They kind of started off like Oregon. They started off slow and then ended up pulling away towards the end. Made it look uglier than it was.
Same with Michigan, right? Like the final score of that game is 30-10. That Michigan game is realistically about a 10-point game if you
Yeah,
watch. Like,
yeah. Um, Speaking of the Michigan game, we'll go ahead and jump to next week's games. We'll cover everything else before we get to that one because that's probably the main header that we'll be on. Anything else? I think LSU's got Nichols should be pretty fairly easy. I think who does Notre Dame play? I don't even know who Notre Dame plays. I think it's a smaller school.
it's a nobody. I can't remember. It's not somebody worth
Yeah.
noting.
Outside of that, we got. I think the K State Tulane game will be an interesting game. Should be a
I
fun
agree.
one. That'll be one we'll keep our eyes out on. Colorado, Nebraska should be a fun one. Just to see what if Nebraska's Nebraska, and if Colorado can figure it out again and get another win in. Another one I got circled just because of their quarterback play this past week is Arkansas, Oklahoma State. I'm ready. I want to see Arkansas's quarterback a little bit more. He was shining. They did play a smaller school, but he looked incredible when he was on the field. And Ollie Gordon starting the season off strong. He had 13 forced missed tackles.
He's
in game.
incredible. I mean, he's phenomenal.
And that's going to be incredible. That's going to be a good game. And then the only other ranked game besides Texas, Michigan is Tennessee, NC State. NC State was kind of one of those first start and slow start games. Took them a while to win. Didn't put them away till the fourth quarter, kind of like the other two games we spoke about a little bit. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be different than what Tennessee we saw from Tennessee and NC State both. I think it'll be another interesting game to watch. But the big one, game day is going to be there. All eyes are going to be on it because it's the main focus. It's an 11 o'clock game. It's number 4 Texas at number 9 Michigan. Um, Everyone is drinking the Kool-Aid right now in Austin, and I can tell you that firsthand. I took a little sips of it myself after yesterday's game, and then kind of this morning woke up and started looking into it a little bit more. It's not going to be as easy as it looks. Like, yeah, Michigan had a sloppy first game. They kind of weren't sure who their quarterback is going to be. I still don't really know who it's going to be, if it's going to be Orgy or it's going to be Warren. Because Orgy only went in for a few plays last week. And honestly, he's the one that scored their touchdown. And then he was back on the bench. They put Warren back in, which was crazy to me. Warren did go on to score another touchdown as well, but still, I'm not sure about this Michigan team whatsoever. But we'll see. Texas's defense, looked strong. They only gave up 4 plays for over 10 yards, 2 pass plays and 2 run plays for over 10 yards the entire game. It was against Colorado State again, so we'll take that with a grain of salt. But going into Michigan, they're 41-3 in the past 44 games. They're 16.
They know how to win.
Yeah, they're 16-0 at home. Like it's gonna be a good game. Texas has got to show up and has got to pretty much play like they did this past week, but it's gonna be against tougher competitors. You're gonna see a run game that we didn't see this past week. Whereas Colorado State was supposed to be a high-powered offense with throwing the ball, we kind of shut that down. We'll see what Warren or Orgy, whoever it's going to be, how they control the ball, what they do with it. I'm super interested in it. I'm ready to see what's going to happen because if Orgy plays, Orgy not only brings his passing ability, but he can run the ball. He can pull it and hurt you with his feet, which is something that Texas has kind of struggled with in the past is mobile quarterbacks. If they can move around the pocket and we can't get pressure on them and get our hands on them, he's going to put points up. And mobile quarterbacks always scared the shit out of me. I don't know about how you said on it, but they always work because if they can move around and then set their feet again and get a throw off, it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's why coaches love them, right? Because they're so hard to defend. I do think Michigan gives Texas more of a game than people think. I think this is going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah. So this past week they won 30-10. They had 269 total yards. They were 4 for 11 on third down. Pretty balanced. It was 121 passing, 140 rushing. Edwards was not their leading rusher. How about that? Edwards had all the hype and everything else, and Edwards had 11 carries for 27 yards. The other back, what was his name? Mullins was one of their top rushers. So it's like, here we go. It's gonna be interesting to see how it happens, how it plays out. College game day is gonna be there. It's gonna be the game of the week. Everyone, I think, game day's there. Big noon kickoffs there. Everyone's eyes are gonna be on it. I think Texas pulls it off on the end, and I think Texas wins. I give a 2-touchdown favorite in Texas' eyes, where I'm sitting. I do have burnt orange tendencies, as we all know, but that's the way I'm leaning today. Just because our offense looks so explosive and looks so fast, I think it's gonna challenge the Michigan defense to keep up with the speed that we have, kind of everywhere. Because our backs have been catching it out of the backfield, and the wide receiver room is insane. Literally, I think what was it? I have it written down. Quinn completed his passes in the first half to 10 different players in the first half, and he threw for over 200 yards. Like
He
that's
looked good. He looked really good.
how do you sit on it? Michigan, Texas? We'll go with you.
I lean Texas. I lean Texas for sure. I think it's probably close to what you got. I think Texas ended up winning by 10. I think they win by 2 scores. But I think it's a little closer than people think to start. I think
Yeah,
Michigan's better than what you saw. And I think Michigan is better than what you saw this weekend. And it's probably not realistic to think that Texas is going to play at that level of perfection, right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely. Especially on the road, it's a big game. And Sark talked about it in the presser today. He's like, "Hey, you know what? it is a big game. It is a big game atmosphere. He said, luckily, one of the things he did point out, I said, luckily we have 46 of our guys that were in Tuscaloosa last year for that big game are also on this roster, so they know how how to handle it and everything else. It's just some of the younger guys are going to get playing time. It's going to be big. It's the first time that Texas and Michigan have played in the regular season ever. So that's going to be fun as well. I mean, first time you see it's a uniform game, like we said about the LSU.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Another big uniform helmet game. It's a blue blood game. You got two of the top tier teams in the nation historically, and as of today, it's going to be huge, huge. There's going to be threats on both sides of the ball for both teams. I think Texas pulls away with a 2-point victory. I think LSU is. I mean, it's a walk in the park against Nichols. Same thing with Notre Dame. How are you feeling about the other ones that we got? We got what did I say? Tennessee and NC State. That one I'm scratching my head on. I don't really know.
Where's it at? Is it in?
It's
Is
at
it?
NC State.
I still lean Tennessee. I think Nico looked really, really good. I lean Tennessee, um, just because I think Nico is. I think
Something,
Nico's really good. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's something special as well. What you think about Arkansas, Oklahoma State?
I think Oklahoma State. I think one, they're better coached. Two, I think they're just a better team. I think Oklahoma State competes for a playoff spot, and I think realistically, Arkansas is going to be flirting. They're competing for a bowl game.
Gotcha. And then K State, Tulane.
I'm going to go with K State. I mean, Tulane's coach is just be a second game. It's a big one. They looked really good against Southeastern, but I still think K State.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. And then the final one that we'll cover is honestly it's Sanders. It's another big game for him to put his stamp on it. I mean, he is a big name. He's always going to be a big name, but this is a big game for him to be like, hey, look, my boys can play ball, but they're going to have to play ball both sides because it's Nebraska.
Nebraska wins that one, no doubt in my head.
You think it's so? This is gonna be your walk away, like hey, you called the Georgia one last week. I think
Yeah, no
exactly
doubt in my head.
they're gonna spank them.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my head with this. Colorado's a bad football team, and people get upset with that. This is not. I think Shadur is really good, and I think Travis Hunter is great. I think he might be the best player in the country. But it's football. Two guys can't carry you. They're really bad everywhere else, in my opinion. And people are going to be listening and go, what about Jimmy Horn? Jimmy Horn's also good.
Yeah.
But overall, as a collective, that's a really bad roster with some really, really nice pieces on the very top end of it. And that being the quarterback, Travis Hunter, and Jimmy Horn. After that, it turns into a whole lot of average to below average football players. I think their O line is average at best. I think their D line is below average to bad. They don't have great linebacker play. They don't play well in the secondary outside of Travis Hunter, and they make bonehead decisions. They like Shiloh Sanders doing everything in his power to get a 15-yard penalty every drive. They just only called one of them, but he tried on every drive to get one.
Yeah, absolutely. There was that. I think I texted the group and was like, "That's another late hit right there. That's another late hit right there." But that's it. Hey, before we close it up, this is something I just thought of. We're gonna start doing it before we close out from now on. Who was your player of the week out of all the games we watched? Who was your player of the week?
I'm going to go to Travis Hunter. I don't think anyone stood out like Travis did on that Thursday night. I don't think anybody in their respective games stood out and was like, I'm the best player on the field like he did. So I'd go Travis Hunter.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. Yeah, I'll have to go Travis Hunter. I think close second will probably be Ollie Gordon, just because 13 forced missed tackles in your first game. So yeah, so we'll do that both. So week one, our player Travis Hunter.
Maybe Ashton Genty.
You did speak about him
from Boise State.
Yeah, because he rushed for almost
like 260.
Yeah,
no. So he should get a proverbial helmet sticker, right? Also,
who did they play?
I don't remember. I can't remember.
Gotcha.
But I mean, he put up an insane stat.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Boise State's one of the teams that are kind of fighting for a place to get in that 12 spot. But we'll see how it plays out. Hey, that's week one, guys. We're gonna wrap it up for y'all. It was fun. Last night was rough. I think like I told you, man, I was I was probably drinking. I probably drank. That was probably more than I drank for an LSU game that I've ever drank. And I think it was more so just being there with you, talking to you about it, and getting ready for it. Incredible game, incredible game. Hopefully, we have some more fun ones like that, and we'll keep it rolling. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Buddha, you got anything for him?
Nope, just remember, LSU fans, it's not the end of the world. You're a lot of season left. It's going to be all right. It feels bad today. It'll feel better Saturday. It'll feel better the next Saturday. So just keep chugging along.
That's it. That's it. But that's all we got for y'all guys. We'll see y'all on Friday for the live if y'all are able to join. If not, we'll see y'all on Tuesday for the next one. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.